Welcome to this online lecture that deals with writing a reportage. It builds on pages 246 through 249, so before you continue this lecture, read those pages. A reportage is a journalistic feature story where the reporter is visible, as opposed to the shorter news article where the reporter is invisible and should remain as objective as possible. The first step is naturally preparation. Ask yourself the questions: what is the main story? What information do I need to cover that story? What do I need to include so that the readers will understand my story? Is there anything that I can exclude that might be unnecessary? Why not make a mind map? In this case, your story should be about the current situation for Aborigines. Perhaps you want to include interviews with certain people. Think about what those people would represent. If your main story is about the bad situation for Aborigines, perhaps you should interview someone who has suffered from it. If your main story is about how the situation has changed for the better, interview someone who can represent that. To explore the question, what information do I need to cover it, you might want to think about looking for facts, such as statistics and first-hand accounts, and information about what the environment looks like. Think also about your characters. Who should they be? To explore the final question, you need to think about your readers. How much do they really know about the subject? It is all about creating a context here. If your main story is about the low level of education in some Aboriginal areas, you might want to include some facts or statistics about level of education. When you include descriptions of settings or people you interview, you can use your 5 senses to create a vivid image. I will come back to how you can use your senses in a little while. Thinking about the didactic question when you prepare to write your reportage is important. Who is the reportage about? When are you meeting this person? Is it in the morning, after work, or after a specific event? Where are you? How did you come into contact? Now, you might not have to answer that particular question. It depends whether it is of importance or not. And finally, why is this story worth writing a reportage about? Use your senses to create credible descriptions of people you meet and the places you visit in your reportage. By using the sense of sight, you can describe what it looks like where you are and what the person you're interviewing looks like. Think also about possible body language, mannerisms and eye movements of that person you're interviewing or describing. What does it smell like where you are? What words would you use to describe fresh air? A barnyard with farm animals? What words would you use to describe coffee? What sounds do you hear? Traffic? Are there animals? What sound would you hear then? If it's completely quiet, how would you describe that silence? Touch is a powerful sense. The handshake that you share with the person you're interviewing, is it firm or loose? Is it dry or sweaty? The ball that you pick up and throw to a playing child, is it easy to throw because of its lightness? Or is it heavy? Is it inflated? Finally, we have taste. You might not find a place in your text where you can use taste to describe the setting or the people, but you can try. The coffee you might drink while interviewing someone, is it strong or weak, sweet or bitter? Again, by using your senses, you create a credible description of people and places in your reportage, but you also create a sense of here and now, which is another key aspect in a reportage. Another way of creating a here and now rather than a then and there is to think about your phrasing. Use the present tense and not the past tense. It gives your readers the feeling that they are at the scene with you and that they experience what you're experiencing at the same time. So, avoid past tense. I decided to ask why language is so important to them, and Patrick answered. Try to use the present tense. I decide to ask why language is so important to them, and Patrick answers. Use powerful details in your text. The right detail can set the mood, create imagery, or describe the whole setting. However, choose your details carefully so that they add something to the descriptions rather than confusing your readers. But hidden in a drawer in his bedroom is a battered black pilot's compass from an airliner that crashed in the Andes with the Uruguayan rugby team in 1972. Alongside Canessa's compass is the light clothing he wore, trekking with a teammate over some of the highest mountains in the world to get help. I lose myself from the grip of Arbia, and I catch a glimpse of Dr. Roberto Canessa, who has been looking at his empty cup of tea during the last part of the conversation with his old friend. Now these quotes, they are not important to the story itself, but it creates a mood in which the story takes place. And that was the final step, but there are three more things for you to consider. Try to mix direct and indirect speech so that your text does not only contain questions and answers. This makes your text look and feel varied. Can I sit down? I ask. That is an example of direct speech. While I ask if I can sit down is an example of indirect speech. Try to mix them. You might also want to think about how to start and end your reportage. Why not start with a flying start to catch your reader's interest, just like Chris Anderson does in the reportage about the Uruguayan rugby team that crashed in the Andes. When I approach the home of Dr. Roberto Canessa in Uruguay, I know that I am to meet someone unusual. Who is Dr. Canessa? Why are they meeting? Why is he unusual? Your readers will ask themselves those questions and keep reading your reportage in hope of finding the answers. So creating a flying start is a good way of catching your readers' interest and make them read your whole text. In the end of your reportage, you can sum up your newfound knowledge. What have you experienced? Have you learned something? Leaving the secretive Canessa estate, I get the hunch there is a secret among those men and women who survived those frosty nights in the Andes. Something troubles me as I climb into my taxi for the airport. I don't know what. But as I leave, I think I hear the vultures again, and it fills me with eerie feelings. And that concludes this lecture about writing a reportage. Now it's your time to use your creativity and write a powerful text. Good luck!